Hello, dear viewers. I am a global nationalist. I support nationalism in my country, India, and in all countries around the globe. Today is a special episode. I want to discuss about the takeover of Afghanistan by the Taliban. This is because it is a historical event, an incredibly important historical event, and so I want to give one video to dedicate to this topic, even though it's not part of my normal schedule. So before I want to talk about how this takeover by the Taliban is going to affect India and how India has responded to this and what I think would be the pros and cons for India in this situation. First off, I want to give a brief background of India's relations with Afghanistan. To go back to the earliest that I have found information on, in the when the Soviet Union had occupied Afghanistan, India was the only South Asian country that recognized it as a legitimate government. However, when the Soviet Union collapsed and retreated from Afghanistan, and the civil war of the 90s broke out, and the Taliban came to power, establishing the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan in 96. India did not recognize the Taliban government at that time. However, in 2001, India aided in the removal of the Taliban government and supports and recognizes the secular government of Afghanistan, the Islamic Republic of Afghanistan, that was installed by the United States and its NATO allies. So, and that's about the recognition, how India has recognized different governments in Afghanistan. And the most important feature of Afghanistan's relationships with India are the the aid that India has given to Afghanistan. India has given 3 billion, at least $3 billion worth of foreign aid to Afghanistan. India has built hundreds of public and private schools in Afghanistan, more than 1,000 scholarships to Afghan students, and has constructed various infrastructure projects and has built the Afghanistan parliament. So India has done a lot for Afghanistan and has generated a lot of goodwill amongst the people of Afghanistan. And so that's the basis. And Afghanistan, the government has not behaved hostile to India and has not supported Pakistan on the issue of Kashmir. It's been a good relationship. However, things might change. Actually, they will change now that Taliban is in power. For example, um, there's going to be more instability, which could result in influx of refugees into India from Afghanistan. It'll be more difficult to uh, build infrastructure in Afghanistan, carry out regular diplomatic business because of the civil strife that will ensue. There's already protests against the government, the Taliban government, which has resulted in firing by the Taliban. And we can already see how people are planning to leave Afghanistan in the airports. We could see the images, the horrifying images of people trying to flee the Taliban. So, from this perspective, things look bad for India. However, there are some positive points. One is that although the Taliban have been funded and supported and aided by Pakistan and the Pakistan military, specifically the Pakistan army, the Taliban do have certain negative uh, opinions about Pakistan. This is because They support the Pashtun people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and believe that the Durand Line, excuse me, that was established by the British government, the British Empire when it was ruling India, that runs between Af Pashtun Afghanistan and Pashtun Pakistan is illegitimate, and they want to merge Pakistan Pashtun area into Afghanistan. This is a territorial threat to Afghanistan, to Pakistan, and also several Taliban militants and soldiers. I won't use the word soldiers, I'll just use militants, have been jailed by Pakistan. The current leader of the Taliban was jailed by Pakistan. And so there's a lot of animosity towards Pakistan, despite the help that Pakistan has given. And so it's unlikely that the Taliban will antagonize India in favor of Pakistan. They have, according to Z News and ANI, sources in the Pakistan in the Taliban have told these networks that they view Kashmir as a bilateral issue between Pakistan and India and will not interfere in it. This is good news because the last time the Taliban came to power, Pakistan took some of the militants that had attacked the Soviet Union in the 80s and took them into Kashmir, and which resulted in the Kashmir conflict and the eventually the exodus of the Kashmiri Pandits. So that doesn't seem to be likely now. It seems that well, the Taliban will not get involved in Kashmir, but there's still no official word from them. Like the information I've got is that some news organizations in India have got information from their sources. I haven't found a actual statement by the Taliban spokesperson or any other authority in the Taliban that they view Kashmir as an internal matter of India. And I'm glad that Article 370 was revoked in Pakistan along with 35A because this gives the central government more control over Kashmir, and that has helped reduce stability. Terrorism has gone down. There is more development, more now. Hopefully, democratic elections can take place in Jammu and Kashmir, and this will help alleviate the suffering that the people of Jammu and Kashmir have been going through, and bring them into the mainstream of Indian society. And eventually, this will make the valley peaceful enough to allow the Kashmiri Pandits to return. So, what I think India should do is this. India should, I think India should actually recognize the Taliban government as a legitimate government in Afghanistan. It is the only government that has control over the territory of Afghanistan, and there is no reason to no good benefit that India incurs by not recognizing the Taliban. In fact, the Taliban has been fairly friendly, not peaceful to India, if not friendly, at least amiable. For example, they have assisted Indian officials and diplomats from the Indian embassy in Afghanistan to get to the airport so they can evacuate from India. And there's, as of I know, no hostages, no Indian hostages in Afghanistan under Taliban control. And they have given verbal assurances to Afghan Sikhs and Hindus that they will not attack them. So this also means that hopefully they will not be against India because of its Hindu majority population and because of the Hindu nationalism of the BJP, the ruling party. So now some people believe that because the Taliban is denying women their rights under the Universal Declaration of Human Rights of the United Nations and are rather imposing Sharia law on Muslim women in Afghanistan, and India doesn't do that. And so that we must somehow oppose Afghanistan on behalf of Afghan women. I don't agree with this. I think that that is an internal matter of Afghanistan, and India should not have any say on that. I also don't think India should take in any refugees from Afghanistan. We have already taken in Rohingya refugees, and we do not have the capacity to take in more refugees from Afghanistan. However, under the Citizenship Act, I think we should bring in the Sikhs and Hindus from Afghanistan. Despite the assurances of the Taliban high command, there is no guarantee that they will be safe, and it's safer for them to be in India. And as far as Afghans in India, if they want to go back to Afghanistan, then I think that they should be allowed to go, but they should not be allowed to return. It should be a one-way trip because we don't know if they go and they might meet with Taliban or Pakistani terrorists that are in Afghanistan, and they might become radicalized. And if they return to India, they might conduct terrorist attacks in India. So to avoid that, we should just allow them to go on a one-way trip. However, if anyone is going for official business to Afghanistan on behalf of the Indian government, any Afghan citizen, then I think India should allow that person to return. However, this is a exception to the rule of not allowing them to return. And yeah, I think that India must go through with dealing with the Taliban with pure rationality and not make any moral judgments about the situation. India should just focus on its national interests. And because if the Taliban are not at least um, given some, if not recognition, at least some amiability, at least some support by the Indian government, then the Pakistan government and China will gladly take them into their side and influence them, and they'll be more likely to act against India despite their animosity to Pakistan. So, to prevent that from happening, I think India should engage with the Taliban. And I'm happy to say that in June this year, that an Indian delegation met with some Taliban members in Doha, in Qatar. And yeah, that's what I think India should do with the recent takeover of of Afghanistan by the Taliban. And yeah, that's what I want to say. Thank you for watching. Vande Mataram.